Welcome to the Generic Tech Support YouTube channel. A channel that remembers when communication was really just one directional. Like and subscribe for more content. Hey guys. So I came across this operating system that I thought I'd share with you guys, which I think is like one of the coolest OSs out. It is actually called FreeXP. So FreeXP is basically a port of Debian 12.9, which was an operating system that was released on January 11th, 2025. The original 12 version of Debian was released in 2023. With that said, this particular OS is based off of 12.9, which again is from 2025 or last month. Something that's really cool about this OS is that it kind of gives you the look and feel of Windows XP with the functionality of a brand new operating system. So you get the good and bad that comes along with that. Now, there are a couple bugs that go along with 12.9, which we'll discuss in this video. But there's also a couple things about Debian 12.9 that actually work really well, which is specifically the system requirements. Now, the system requirements for the system are not like Windows XP were. So I believe in the original version of Windows XP, it was 233 megahertz, 64 megs of memory. And if I remember correctly, I think it was a gig or a gig and a half of drive space for Windows XP. This system does require more horsepower than Windows XP did. However, it is modern in that you get Chromium, you get a browser that works, you get some application functionality, and you can run modern things on it. Modern Linux things, but still modern things on it. So this system actually requires 1 gigahertz of a processor. They recommend a Pentium 4 or better just because it does require, or they suggest, dual core. It supports both 32-bit and 64-bit platforms. You could run either one. They make a port of it for both. I would suggest running the 64-bit platform just because at this point most hardware that's out there that's being used should be 64-bit compatible. As far as memory is concerned, it does require DDR memory instead of like PC100 or PC133. DDR memory has to be at least 512 megs of memory. And then as far as drive space is concerned, to just install the OS, you really need about 14 gigs of drive space. That's with all the updates and whatnot. If you want to install a bunch of applications and other things on there, then obviously you need more space. So I would say probably 40 gigs is what you're going to want to have as a minimum when you do the install of FreeXP. But the requirement's really only 15 gigs. Now, it doesn't require SATA drives. You can run an IDE drive. It does require, or it recommends, at least a 5400 RPM disk. And I would say that if you're not running a 7200 RPM disk, it's probably going to be pretty slow, pretty sluggish. This particular VM is not configured to meet those minimum settings. It's configured much higher because I do want the ability to have, fast clicks and things of that nature. So it does have 8 gigs allocated to it. It has 4 cores allocated to it. And it is allocating 256 megs of video memory. So it isn't super slow, but you can get away with running a system that is relatively old and still support FreeXP. Okay guys, so let's log into FreeXP and take a look to see what this actually looks like. So you'll see that it does match the Luna configuration of Windows XP. And you'll also see that the icons on the desktop, you do have a My Computer and you have a My Documents. You have a trash icon, we have Chromium, and we have a web browser, which again, IE or Internet Explorer is trademarked to Microsoft, so they just called it web browser. And then we have the XP Q4 desktop configuration, the themes pack. Now, this system is based off of a Debian subtype called Q4OS. And Q4OS is really pretty much at the same level as you'll find a Ubuntu system. So Ubuntu is technically based off of Debian. Mint is technically based off of Ubuntu. And Q4OS is really based off of Debian. So it sits along the same level in the org chart that you would find like Ubuntu, right? So Ubuntu and this sit side by side. Now, from a development side, where we are as far as like standard features and configurations and whatnot, this is nowhere near as developed or as well put together as Ubuntu is, which means that it's really nowhere near as well developed or packaged as Linux Mint is. However, it does require substantially less horsepower to run it, and you can still install all of the packages. Now, on this particular system, I've already gone through the setting configuration setup for installing snap packages. I've already installed the Flatpak controls for installing Flatpaks on it. I've already updated the system so that way it's up to date. And I've already bug fixed the Debian 12.9 system because of the bug that has to do with the start menu and populating snaps, as well as installing the snap store. And there's only really three commands in the command line that you have to run in order to install three different packages to fix the GUI so that way the snaps and the Flatpaks show up correctly in the start menu. And I will put those things in the wiki so that way you can just grab them and run them so that way you have access to them. And they'll work on Debian 12.9 or on this, or if you want to try the sister version of this, which is Free 10, which is the Windows 10 revision of this same package. And what the Free 10 does is it just mimics Windows 10 very well. And maybe I'll throw a screenshot here so you can check out Windows 10's version of this. But it works just as well. And I'll have both those links inside of the wiki for you to grab. You could download either one of those things. But let's test this out. Let's just drive this a little bit and test it out and see how it actually looks, how it functions. Now, keep in mind that because this has what I would call a low requirement for running, I wouldn't recommend running this on like, a Core i5 processor from a 14th or a 13th gen. Or I guess without the microcode update, it would probably work totally fine on a 13th and 14th gen. I'm kidding. That doesn't fix the driver issues. It just causes it to perform like a 9th gen and basically flush money down the toilet. But with that said, I mean, you really want to run this on like a 7th gen, a 6th gen, 5th gen, something that you would have been upgrading to Windows 11 that maybe you just prefer the look of XP, but the functionality of a Linux operating system. This is perfect for you. And we all know that everybody likes the way XP looks. So this is a plus, in my opinion. So let's take a look, right? So we're going to click on the Start menu, and this looks pretty close to what the Start menu looks like in Windows XP. And ironically or weirdly, you can do the Run command and then type in like terminal. Okay, terminal here. There we go. So it'll open up the terminal, and it does pre-populate. We could see, actually, when we go into the Run command, when I typed in terminal, we get a pre-population of what we should be typing, and then we could just click Run, and that'll open the terminal. So there is some, I guess, learning that you'll have to do in order to get used to the changes that take place between the two OSs, and this is kind of a one-off OS, meaning that, like, things that would generally run a certain way in Debian maybe a one-off in this particular OS. So it may not be for everybody, but for people that really got used to the older Windows operating system that just wants the look and feel of a Windows XP OS, but then the functionality of a modern Linux OS, this is pretty cool. Now, as far as like the web is concerned, it has the latest version of Chromium installed. If you don't know, Chromium is just basically the base package of what Chrome is. So you can run Chromium on this, or you can install Chrome if you really wanted to as well. All those commands we used in the Linux Mint video, they work on here. So if you wanted to install Chrome, or if you wanted to install VLC, or if you wanted to install Slack, or whatever else, they all work. And as like a quick reference, if we just do a search here for terminal, and then we wait for it to populate, and we hit enter, we'll just get the terminal here. We could do sudo apt, actually I think it's snap, so sudo snap install Slack, for instance, right? Maybe we want to install Slack. So we could just then hit enter, and we could do our password, and then we could hit enter, and now it's just going to install the Slack application on our local machine. And then once this is done, we'll be able to find it in our start menu because we did run those three commands. Again, those three commands will be put inside of the wiki page. You could grab those and just run them in order. And then you'll have to reboot. It'll tell you where you need to reboot in the actual wiki location. And once that's done, you should at that point be able to run and see all of your applications in the start menu on Debian 12.9. Okay, so there it is. It finished. It says it's installed. Let's check it out. So we go to all programs, programs. Let's see if we could find it in here. Maybe under accessories. Is it under internet? Oh yeah, so there we go. Slack client for Linux. There's our web browser. There's a Conquer web browser. There's the App Store. We can go back. Anything under multimedia, there's VLC player. Anything under development, there's a regex or regular expression editor in there. Utilities, we could see under the utilities, we got the show desktop and whatnot. So, I mean, it does work and it does look similar to what we would find in XP. So if we close out of the command line real quick and we double click on this computer or my computer, we could actually see the command as to where it's going. And we could see, you know, we could see documents folder, remote places and storage. So if we go in there, we can see this, what would be the C drive on Windows. And you can see it's kind of laid out to make it look similar to Windows XP. Our folder structure is about the same. We go to home, which is our location. That's our user account. There's our desktop. So we double click on that. If we put something on the desktop, we would see it here. In our downloads folder, if we had something downloaded, we'd see that there. Pictures stuff. There might be pictures like stock photos, but no such luck. So that's really what we got here. There's a Snap Store. There's VLC and the Snap Store that are installed. So we do have a full-blown OS here. We have a Mint equivalent here because we did install the Snap Store and the Flatpaks on the system. And again, all those commands exist inside of our Mint video, and I'll also put them in this separate location for this Debian build, just because Debian does have some slight differences between the installation of your Snap Store, your Slack, or rather your App Store, and then also the Flatpak configuration. So I will add that stuff in there because it's slightly different in Debian's vanilla version versus what you would find in Mint. But with that said, it really does look like XP. So this is going to be a short video. I just want you guys to tell me right away, like, hey, what do you think of this? Would you run this as an alternative to a Windows XP system, knowing that it basically will do what XP does, but then also give you the ability to use like a modern browser to get on the internet and actually function and use it? Let me know down below. I'm curious what you guys think of our free XP system. You know, I don't think I would be doing the system justice if I left it just right yet. So before we end this video, let's take a look at the different theme packs that come with this particular OS. So right now we know this is Windows XP's theme pack, but what if we go to like Start, go to All Programs? I mean, you would think it would be under Settings, right? So you go to Control Panel. Yeah, so it is. There we go. Appearances and themes. Let's go in there. And then let's take a look at the theme manager. So there we go. So right now we're in Luna, but we could go to Windows 7. Let's apply that. So now we have something that is the equivalent of a Windows 7 build. Maybe want to see if we, for whatever reason, want to run it like Windows 8. Well, we could click on that, and now we have Windows 8. It's funny that there's DVD posted, right? We could go to Windows 10. Let's apply that. If we click on the Start menu, you know, the thing is the Start menu on this side looks kind of similar to Windows 7. I wouldn't call this a full-blown Windows 10 menu, but then I'm only comparing this to the actual free 10 version. So the free 10 version, the Start menu looks way different. It looks much more like Windows 10. So I would say that if you're going to go Windows 10, run the free 10 version, not free XP. But if you want XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, and let's take a look at Windows 2000, or I guess Windows 2000, this is the operating system to choose, the free XP version. There's Classic XP. We can go into there and see. But again, that looks probably similar to our Windows 2000. So the Start menu is slightly different, but it looks pretty similar. And if we go back to the XP, the Luna setting, there we go. And I personally, I think the Luna setting looks best in free XP, but you know, that's my own personal preference. Let me know down in the comments what you think, and let me know if you have a desire to see more of this operating system. All right, guys, thanks for watching.